Hello, welcome to Trucking with Liberty. Today we are going to be going over how to file IFTA, at least in the state of Missouri. Each state has their own process of how you file IFTA. It's always done through your local state. And what I do whenever I file IFTA is I have the Motive is my ELD provider. And then Trucking Office is what I use for the back end stuff. The miles will never track properly between Motive and the back end accounting software. Just FYI, what I normally look for is to make sure the gallons match. You could look at the miles, make sure they're close. If there's a wide variance, then there's something wrong. But 2,469 gallons, yep, they match. The accounting software rounds up to the nearest hundredth of a gallon, and the ELD rounds up to the nearest thousandth of a gallon. So, go into here. This is the MoDOT Carrier Express portal. Go in here, log in. Then we want to do IFTA. Alright, and we want to file a return. Put in the tractor number. Make sure it's for the correct quarter and year. It is. We are going to proceed. Filing IFTA is fairly simple. And what I am actually going to do is I am going to drag my ELD over to my other screen and then go ahead and get all this entered. Jurisdiction list, I do all IFTA. That's what I do, because even though like Kentucky's not part of IFTA, but it's still listed on here. Then we want to type in our total miles. We went 21,105 miles. Total taxable is going to be exactly the same. The mega carriers could go a little bit less because technically you could take off miles spent within your own hub or on your own property, but I wish toll roads were able to be taken off, but they are not. And then we purchased 2,469 gallons of fuel, so we type that in. They do not do decimals, at least in Missouri they don't. I don't think any of them do, but I know for a fact Missouri does not. And because we're based out of Missouri, they always want the Missouri one first. Type that in. Total taxable miles, again, will always be the same unless you actually take off miles for what you drive on private property. And when I mean private property, I mean your own carrier's property. You're better off not doing that, in my personal opinion. That just opens you up to being audited. Which, if you want to get audited, go for it. I personally don't want to get audited. More of a headache than it's worth. And then you don't have to fill out all these if you did not put any miles in any of these states. You only got to fill out, at least on the MoDOT system, you only got to fill out the ones that you actually put miles in. It'll automatically put in zeros on the rest. And these you have to... This is the fun part of IFTA. It has to be whole miles. You cannot put decimals in here. So like Iowa, I actually drove 2,984 84.9 miles. So I put in 85. At some point, whenever I get all these entered, I'm going to have to go through here, add them all up, and make sure that it totals to this 21,105 miles. It has to match. Same with the gallons. The gallons have to match. And then Illinois, 100. Indiana. Oh, did not get any fuel in Indiana. And Ohio. Again, I'm putting zeros in some of these. You don't have to. Alright, so you may be wondering, why in the world do you get fuel only in a few states? I'll tell you why. Illinois, in my experience on all my discounts, has the best fuel price after IFTA. They also have the highest IFTA rate. Look, at least out of the states I run in, 78 cents, basically 79 cents per gallon, is just IFTA fee. So pretty much every time I file, I end up having a surplus. And I like that. Plus, the fuel is the cheapest in Illinois after IFTA, so it's a win-win. I, so far, have not had to pay any IFTA yet. But if you look, 79 cents per gallon for this quarter was the IFTA rate in Illinois. The next most expensive would have been... at least in the ones I ran in, would have been Indiana at 57 cents. So now that we got all ours entered in there, we want to enter the total miles again. 21,105. Total gallons that we purchased, 24,69. And this is going to calculate. And then what this did is it added up everything that we inputted. So this gray box here, the 21,105 and 24,69 for the gallons, that totaled up these columns. All of these. So when we entered it, we rounded correctly to where we don't have to go back here and either take a mile off out of one jurisdiction or add a mile. It gets to be a little bit of a headache. And if you travel pretty much in all the states, that, I won't say it'll make it difficult, it'll just make it more time consuming. So ours looks good. We can go ahead and proceed. Oh, and 8.5 miles per gallon for that quarter. Miles up here rounded, please verify. Whenever I opened up my IFTA account, the lady at MoDOT that I talked to, she warned me, do not round it. Like, what they actually prefer you to do is every time you cross the state line is write down your odometer as you're going over a state line. I don't do that for safety reasons. As long as you got something to back it up, like your ELD, you can show that, like if you get audited, you show what your ELD shows. For instance, as I showed you guys a minute ago, this is my ELD motive. If I were to get audited and I give them this, they will compare it to my return. Most likely they're not really going to say a whole lot because it matches. The ELD is a tracking device, obviously. As long as you enter the information correctly, which I'm going to double check it real quick, they're not going to say a whole lot. Like they're looking for the people that are willfully violating it or not keeping correct records. And look at this. Because I bought so much fuel in, let's see, actually that quarter I didn't, oh, here we go. 438 gallons I bought in Illinois. I only needed to buy 105. And with them having such a high rate, 333 gallons I did not need to buy. Which means Illinois is paying me, well, my company, $262. Which makes my return $103.25 as a credit. Which, if I wanted to, I could actually get a check for MoDOT for. And so again, I buy fuel anytime I'm in Illinois or near Illinois. I try to buy fuel there because they're high IFTA rate, but also because the fuel is cheapest there, at least in my experience. Like, fuel, basically 25 cents a gallon in Missouri compared to 79 cents in Illinois. I mean, what would that be? 79, 74, 54 cents. They have a higher IFTA rate by 54 cents compared to Missouri. The fuel is not 54 cents more expensive in Illinois whenever you pay for it. So that's why I do what I do. I'll get fuel in Missouri. Obviously, most of my fuel I did get in Missouri because I try to stay in Missouri as much as I can. But if I do go into Illinois, I'm getting fuel. And that saves me from having to send in a check or pay MoDOT for the IFTA. And it's a nice little bonus if I ever do want to claim the credit, they will send me a check. So right here, this is going to be pretty much the final screen. We do not want to cancel IFTA. If you did, then you'd enter the cancellation date. Here's all the numbers. And then, do we want a refund? Yes or no? And then they will send us an electronic copy through PDF. If that all looks good, we're going to go ahead and submit it. Alright, now this is the payment page. If you had a balance that was due, this is where you would go here, you'd see the balance that is due. If you had a credit, you could use that to apply to the balance, but we do not. So either way, you hit pay now. Obviously, it's not going to have us pay because we paid more in IFTA than we needed to. And then here it's asking, this is where you would put the payment in. Do you want to pay or not? Obviously, this is all grayed out for us because we don't owe anything. So we go down here and it says, for overpayment, what do you want? Do you want a refund or do you want system credit? I'm just going to do system credit. To me, it does not hurt to have them hold it. If you want to do the refund, you can do that. That is completely up to you, if whichever suits you. But we're going to keep it as a system credit. Go ahead and proceed. And then up here, excess money will be deposited into the IFTA system credit. look over this. That's what our balance was or credit was prior to. Oh, this is, up here is what our credit was prior to that quarter, prior to the third quarter. This is how much is going to be added. Proceed, and I believe it will show us how much we have in credit now. It doesn't. It does not. If I want to, I could go through the system and figure out where it's at. But what it did do, and it went off screen so you couldn't see it, this is our PDF of our IFTA return. You make sure you save this. This is very important. If they ever ask you for your IFTA return, if anyone does, this is what they're going to want. This is your quarterly IFTA return. It is now filed. When this page pops up, at least at MoDOT, you're filed, you're good to go. So that was how you file IFTA. This is something that is fairly simple to do. If your carrier does it, that's a good service. But if you want to do it yourself just to get the experience or actually see, like kind of as a learning, I like it because I learned the different IFTA rates. I really like that. I mean, some of the fuel discount apps have that as well, but it helps me be more aware of what I can do to save the most money. Because, in all honesty, if I wasn't right next to Illinois, it might be better off paying IFTA, like instead of having a credit like I do pretty much every quarter. It might be better off actually paying IFTA if you're going to save fuel. But I would not advise, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I would not advise you to get fuel in a higher IFTA state just because they're a high IFTA state so you don't have to pay IFTA. Get the cheapest fuel you can, like at the net price. That's how you're going to save money. But if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.